Hi guys, Jordan from B&P Campers. Just going to be doing a handover video on this Orion Zeta. So the Orion Zeta is basically the same as the Autosleeper Nuevo. They are built by the same people. Autosleeper do build these Orions, well they did back in these days. This particular one is on the Peugeot Boxster and it's a 57 plate, so that's late 2007. And what I'll do is I'll show you around under the bonnet and then we'll walk all the way around the outside and then I'll show you inside as well. So under the bonnet we've got your washer fluid, power steering fluid, engine coolant and your brake fluid all over here on the left hand side. Down on the top of the engine we've got the engine oil filling point, and your engine oil dipstick is this little yellow one down here at the front. You've got your chassis plate just here, and your white paint code for the vehicle is Fiat 249. So Fiat and Peugeot, you know, obviously different companies, but they literally use the same bodies, engines, everything is the same. So if you were to look at a Fiat Ducato 2.2, the same as this, it's the same. So hence why they use the same paint codes and all that sort of stuff, because they are literally Fiat colours. So 249 is the white colour throughout the vehicle if you ever needed any touch-up paints and all that kind of thing. To jump start the vehicle, you have got a positive terminal just here underneath this little cover, and a negative terminal or an earthing point down here at the front. So they are your 2 points there to jump start the vehicle. The reason they put those in is because the engine battery sits under the floor in the cab, just in front of the passenger seat. So, you know, to save you having to take all of that out on the side of the road, then they just give you that easier option just there under the bonnet. So inside the passenger door, we've got your bonnet release handle, just there. So to release the bonnet, you would pull that one there. Both these front seats are swivel seat bases, so you can swivel those by pulling one of these two handles. I think it's this one. Yep. So when you pull on the right hand handle of these, you'll then be able to swivel the seat all the way around. Just behind the passenger door, you've got your diesel filling point just there, so you will need your ignition key to open that up. You've got a couple of storage lockers just here on the front near side. So lower locker is sort of like a wet locker, and that one there is just access to the underneath of the near side settee. These two vents just here are both to do with your fridge, so if you have the fridge lit up on gas, you'll be able to feel warm air coming out through this little vent just here. You can probably see as well a little bit of condensation forming on that as well. Step is manual, so to put the step back in, you lift up on the front of it and then allow it to go back in on its own. To put it back out, pull down and make sure that goes down nice and flat. You have got a security lock just here. It's a Fiamma security lock, which you can open up just by pulling across the door, and that'll double up as a handle to help you get in and as a security lock. You also got the Fiamma F45S awning at the top just there. So that's a full wind out awning, and it will come out a decent way, a good few meters out. The actual back of the van, we have got the 2-bike rack just here, and there's not really much else to show you on the back, to be honest. So on the rear offside, we've got the toilet cassette locker down lower, so you can remove that by lifting up on the little yellow tab here at the bottom, and then pull the entire thing towards you. You'll then be able to pull the entire thing out, and all you need to know from there is that you drain it out from here, and you hold down the little yellow button there at the back whilst you're draining it out. Above that, we've got your flush fluid reservoir, so if you need to empty out your flush, or empty or fill up your flush fluid from there, that's your pre-mixed pink fluid that goes into that one, and it's the same key for both of these lockers to open and close these. Underneath here, we've got your wastewater drain off point, so if I was to twist this open like this, that closes it, and that one opens it up. To the right of that, we've got your electric hookup. You can see I've got the hookup plugged in at the moment. So having the hookup plugged in means that you basically don't need to worry about your leisure battery voltage. It means that your battery is going to be at full power, and it also means that you'll be able to use any of your mains powered appliances, which I'll run you through when we get inside. Next thing over is our Truma boiler vent. That's your hot water vent just there. So a lot like the fridge. If you wanted to double check that that was definitely working, you can put your hand over either side of this little vent just here and feel warm air coming out from that. I'll just point out as well that you do have to make sure this little cover here is off the front of this before you start trying to light the boiler up. It's really important. Freshwater filling point from there. So fresh water goes into that one, and just whilst we're on that same topic, down here just next to the exhaust is your freshwater drain off point. So if you want to drain out your fresh water, you twist this little valve here, and then any fresh water that's left in the tank will come out from there. Right, so the last locker on the outside is your LPG locker or your gas locker. So you've got space in here for 2 of these 6 kilo propane bottles if you want them. We always just give away 1 6 kilo, so that's why you've just got the one there. You've got a new pigtail hose. You've got 2024 dated pigtail hose, which means that you've got till 29 to replace that. To turn the bottles on, you go anti-clockwise all the way up to the top until you can't go any further. And to turn it off, we go clockwise around to the right all the way down, also until you can't go any further. Right, so in the cab, first thing I like to mention is that you've got the handbrake just here on the right hand side, so just be careful of that when you're getting in and out, because it does hurt when you catch yourself. On the actual door itself, you've got your electric windows and your electric adjusting mirrors as well, which you basically just select which mirror you want to move and then just move it around like a little joystick basically. It's really, really easy. So because we're on the Peugeot, you do get these sort of little optional extra steering controls here, so you can change the source. You still got the original factory fitted stereo there, so all of this will work. You got your volume, mute, source, change, skip songs and all that sort of stuff. You have got your lights on and off switch from the left hand stalk, along with your indicators and flash. Washers and wipers are in the exact same position as most cars. You just got them here on the right hand stalk. Down onto the actual dash itself, you've got the headlight adjustments from there, and then these 3 buttons here are all basically just to do with the back screen there. So yeah, there's not really much to explain about that, to be honest. You got the 5-speed manual gearbox. To select reverse, we're going to lift up on the back just here and then go over and up to the top left hand side. The stereo in the middle there is, as I say, it's just factory fitted. That's your standard sort of stereo. Then got the heater controls, so you select where you want the air to go to with this one, and whether it's drawing in from outside or recirculating. You've then got your temperature from this one and your fan speed as well. You've got your lock and unlock function just here as well on the actual inside of the dash, and the hazard warning lights from that one. Your fog lamp from that switch just there, and your original switch just there for the rear heated window. Obviously that's not going to be doing anything at all, because that would have been just here before it was converted into a motorhome. So the original one is not there anymore. So I think that's about it really for the cab. There's not a lot else I can show you. The actual cab itself is in really, really nice condition, as, to be honest, the rest of the van is in really, really good condition as well. Even just down to little things like all of the trims and stuff that are on all the original stuff that's been fitted from Orion. It's just all intact, all really nice condition. Nothing's falling off or peeling away. It's honestly, it looks really good. So I will just swivel round now and then jump into the back end of the van and show you around here. So first things first, we've got the layout of the van. So you'll see that I've got this seat up on its hinge at the moment, just so I can show you some stuff down here. But you can get the general gist of it. This is the sort of most common layout of this particular van. So as I say, this is the same as the most of the Nuevos, the Autosleeper Nuevo. So yeah, I mean, this is a typical layout. You've got 2 side settees that both pull together to make a nice big double bed going all the way across the van. And as soon as you put them back away again, you've just got 2 nice long settees. So it's a really comfortable place to be. Loads and loads of space to be honest. It's really light and airy. All of the actual upholstery and all of the cupboard, you know, all the joinery and stuff is absolutely lovely in this particular van. It's genuinely really, really nice and straight everywhere you look. So what I'll do first, I mean, this is your sort of control panel area just here behind this seat on the side of the wardrobe. And I think this is probably the most, well, probably the easiest place to start. And then I can sort of go around and show you all the appliances and all of that as well. So this is, again, a very standard thing for the Autosleepers and the Orions and things like that. Very, very sort of typical control panel here. So first things first, on the left-hand side, you've got these little switches here that says HAB and vehicle. So that is your battery selector. So that's basically just going to be choosing which battery you want to be powering up the back end of the van. So all of your lights and anything at all that you want powered up in the back end of the van, that's your battery selector to choose which one you want to use. Now, for obvious reasons, you're not really going to want to use your engine battery to power the lights and your ignitions and your fans and all that sort of stuff. So you want to choose HAB. Now, the habitation battery is this one just down here. That's your leisure battery. And that's what it's there for. The leisure battery is there. The habitation battery is there for powering the back end of the vehicle. So the next one over that says master is basically just your master 12 volt on and off switch. That's your main 12 volt on and off switch. And when you go down on this, all of your 12 volt power will then be switched off. Now, I'm not going to do that because I have actually got a few things going at the moment. But I'm just going to switch this off as well for a sec. But that is, as I say, that one there that says master, that's your main power switch on and off. We've then got in the middle, we've got a little gauge here, which you can see at the top it says battery, so that's your colour scale at the top. And at the bottom it says water, and that's your sort of actual scale there with empty, full, quarter, half, 3/4. And so they are your two scales, the battery level and your water level. Now, when I press on the battery little switch just up here, press and hold on this, it will show us, if you look at the top scale, it will show us that we're right up to the very, very top with our battery voltage. Okay, so basically that's just telling us that the leisure battery, or whichever battery we've got selected on the left, whichever one we've got selected there, it will be showing us the battery voltage in that particular battery. So we've got full power in the leisure battery. Okay, if I select water, if I press and hold on water, it's showing us the fresh water level, which we know is empty because we saw that there was nothing coming out of the drain on the outside. So that's correct. Okay. Next one over is your water pump. You press on that one, all of the time that the pump is running, you see this little light just here saying pump run. I'm going to switch that off because, as I said, I've got no water in the fresh tank, so that's not ever going to turn itself off. And then the last one is your lights. So that's all of your lights. So when you turn that switch on, like it is now, you should be able to go around and choose all of your lights, turn them all on individually. They've all got their own switches. That one there will probably be an awning light, I would imagine. But yeah. So that is the control panel. There's honestly no more to it than that. You've literally got switches for all of your power things, and then your battery gauges and water gauges and stuff like that. Okay. So that's the whole control panel. Now, when we got to this position here, when we've got the master switch on, we've got the light switch on, we should theoretically then be able to go around and use pretty much anything that's 12 volt powered. So that's going to be all of your things like ignitions, the fridge, ignitions and stuff like that as well. Any sockets that say 12 volt on them, so that one there that says 12 volt, that will be powered up by the control panel being turned on. Any 3-pin sockets, like a household socket, they will need the electric hookup to be plugged in. At the moment, I do have the hookup plugged in, so these two will be powered up. All right, so I'd just like to make that really clear because some people do get a bit confused with that. You can't expect any of those 3-pin sockets. They will not do anything at all unless the electric hookup's plugged in and you're plugged into a post or at home or whatever. So they do need the hookup to be plugged in to use any of those mains sockets. Right, so I'll then show you around this little area down here. The reason I've got it opened up is because it's actually a really important little locker. So as I briefly mentioned, this is your leisure battery here. Now this is a 110 amp hour battery, so it's one of the bigger size ones that you can get really for these. And there's not really much to tell you about this. I mean, this is just literally a leisure battery. You haven't got to do anything with it. you just leave that as it is, and you know, keep your eye on the battery voltage every now and again. But that just is what it is, just a battery. Down to the left of that, we have got a couple of important things. So we've got 3 relays just here on the left. These little black things here are all relays. So they're all going to be, you know, related to 12-volt bits and pieces around the vehicle. We don't tend to get any issues with those really, but you know, that's just where they are. And then you've got your fuse bank just here as well. So the fuses are a lot more common to blow and go wrong really. Although I suppose they're not going wrong, they're doing their job. But basically, if you were to find that you come into the van one day and you can't get any of the lights to work, or you can't get any of your ignitions to work or something like that, then it might be worth, obviously you can give us a ring for any problems that you have, but if we're not here or we can't help you or something like that, you're away, whatever, then you can, if you want to, have a little look at those fuses just there. And they're basically going to be fuses to power anything 12-volt related in the entire vehicle. So if it's got 12-volt going to it and it's not working, the likelihood is that it's probably a problem with one of these fuses. Okay. Behind that, another important thing with this vehicle, and all motorhomes really, is you've got this little yellow tab. So the little yellow tab there is your boiler drain. Okay. So any time that you want to drain the boiler out, which I'll tell you why you want to do that in a minute, but if you want to drain the boiler out of all of its water, you need to lift up the little yellow tab here. If I do that, you probably just about heard it, but all of the water that's inside the boiler is now draining out onto the floor. Okay, so the reason that you would want to drain the boiler out, so if you're coming up to winter and you're not going to be using the van for a little while and you want to winterize it, as people call it, you will need to drain out both your water tanks, which I've shown you where the drains are on the outside, on the offside there. And really important, and probably most importantly, you need to make sure that you drain the boiler out. Now basically, if you don't drain the boiler out, the boiler is 10 litres of water. If you don't drain the boiler out before winter, and you know, it gets so cold in here that the boiler actually freezes and the water inside of it freezes. Essentially what happens is when water freezes, it expands a little bit. And what tends to happen is, because the boiler is completely pressurized and all the pipes are really hard and they're all pressurized and stuff, you'll find that if you don't drain it all out, especially the boiler, when you come back to using the van again, when you put the pump on to repressurize everything, you'll find that you'll just have leaks from everywhere. And I've seen it so many times before. And it's purely just because the pipes have been pressurized with their water, they've expanded when they've frozen, and they've cracked everything. So, and it is a bit of a mess, really. The boiler is probably the most expensive part in this entire van. Okay, you do not want to be forking out for a new boiler, I promise you. So just make sure that you drain that boiler out with the little yellow tab, just by lifting it up like that. And you can leave it up like that before it comes to winter, and that will just ensure that you don't have any sort of expansion in the pipes and the tanks and stuff like that. So nice and easy to get to that, and that's just something you need to make sure that you remember before the winter time. All the time that it's not going to be that cold, if it's going to be like 5 degrees or up, you don't have to worry about that because it's not going to freeze. As soon as it starts getting down below about 5 degrees and colder, you need to think about draining out that boiler. I will just point out as well that if you're going to be in the van using it and the van's going to be warm, you do not need to do that. Okay, so the only reason you would ever need to drain that out and drain your water tanks out and winterize it is if you're going to be leaving the van on your driveway or wherever it's stored over winter. You know, it's going to be empty, it's going to be cold, you're not going to be using it. That's when you would need to winterize it. Okay, so also in this cupboard you've got the water pump at the back just there, so again fairly easy to get to that. But yeah, so that's just quite a little important locker that I thought I'd just point out to you. Ooh, need 2 hands really to put those down. Right, so that is the little cupboard down there. Leisure battery, water pump, boiler drain, stuff like that's down there. So what I'll do now is I'll just sort of run you through the appliances. So we've got the water, which is, I sort of count that as an appliance. I need to explain how to use that. The fridge, the cooker, the heater, and the boiler. All right, so we'll start with the pump. Now the pump is kind of you might think this is a really self-explanatory thing that I need to to explain, and you'd probably be right, but I always like to explain this because it is quite an important thing. So as I was saying, with the boiler, it is really important to make sure that you drain that out before winter. That is very, very important, probably the most important thing. But it's also really important to make sure that the boiler is actually full of water before you start trying to use it. So some people will just come into the van, willy-nilly, come over to the boiler, switch just here and turn it on. All right, now that's fine. You'd think, okay, well, that's how you do it. But you do need to make sure of one thing first. So this isn't going to work right now because I haven't got any water in the fresh tank. But to actually use the boiler, you need to make sure that it is full. And there's no gauge or anything like that to check that nice and easily. So you do have to do something that I'm going to show you now. So what you would do in this particular case, if you wanted to use the boiler and you wanted to make sure it's full, you need to come to the control panel here, turn on your power switch, and then just check to make sure that you've got water in the tank. Now, as I said, I haven't got any water in the tank, so this is not going to work for me. But you would press this, make sure that you've got water in the tank, say, yes, I've got water in the tank. You would then turn your pump switch on, okay? Turn your pump switch on, and then come over to the sink tap over here in the kitchen, and just open the tap up on the hot side. The hot side is always going to be on the left, so open up the left-hand side of the tap, open it up, and basically what will happen is if the boiler isn't full just yet, you'll find that it will start to cough and splutter and get a little bit wet around here. It's totally normal. And basically what that is it's just getting rid of the air between the boiler and the tap. Okay, so it will cough and splutter for a minute, and you won't get any water coming through for a sec. And once the boiler is full, it will start coming through here nice and clear, no coughing, no spluttering, and you'll then be able to turn the tap off. Once you've turned the tap off, after you've seen that the water's coming through nice and easily on the hot side, the pump should theoretically turn itself off after a few seconds. Okay, if the pump doesn't turn itself off, all it means is that you've still got a little bit of air in the system. So then you would have to go into the bathroom and try the sink in there, the shower, and just go through all the taps and just make sure that you're getting all of the air out of those taps. You'll know about it, as I said, you'll know when there's a little bit of air coming out because it will kind of cough at you, and it's quite obvious when it does. Once you've done that, your pump should turn itself off. I would say as well, I think I already mentioned this, but I tend to mention that it's always good practice to turn the pump switch off when you're not using it. So anyway, so just go around all the taps, open them all up, get the water flowing through them nice and clearly, and then you're good to go. So basically, long story short, if you've got water coming through the tap on the hot side and it's coming through nice and clear, it's not coughing, it's not sputtering, you've got water coming through on the hot side with the pump on, your boiler is 100% full. Okay, so that is all I'm going to explain to you about that. That's all there is to it, really. Just make sure that your boiler's full by doing that little process there before you start trying to light it up. And the basic reason for that is if you try and light the boiler up with no water in it, it's going to overheat. So that's why you need to make sure that it's definitely full. So there's a sink there, hot and cold tap. So the cooker is the next part. So we've got a 3-burner hob with a electric ring there as well. So if the hookup's plugged in, you'll be able to turn this little switch just here on the left. You'll get a little red light come on when you do that, and that'll basically just start heating up your ring up here. Okay, your electric ring. The rest of them are all just gas burners. Okay, simple as that to light them up, just like a household cooker. It's no different at all. The grill and the oven are all from that same ignition switch there as well. But I will just mention that it's really important to make sure that you leave this glass lid up, even if you're just using the grill and the oven. The grill, the actual heat from the grill, obviously apart from inside the grill, comes out from here, this little oval part up here. So if you've got the lid down, you've got the grill on, you're just going to be putting an insane amount of heat coming up through there, straight onto the bottom of the glass. So make sure that you leave this all up, leave the glass up when you're using any of this cooker. Okay, that's all I really tend to explain about these. There's not really much else to explain. Pretty self-explanatory stuff really on that front. So we've then got the Dometic 3-way fridge. Okay, now this is essentially your standard, or your industry standard 3-way fridge. So you've got 3 different options on here. So if I just zoom in a little bit, you've got 3 different options. You've got gas, which is what we're on right now. You've got mains electric, and you've got 12 volt. Okay. Now the 12 volt one is a little bit deceiving because you would think, okay, well, as soon as I put the control panel on, I'll be able to switch it on to 12 volt. That's not how it works on the fridge. The 12 volt is for when your engine is running. Okay, so if I try and select 12 volt, you'll see there you have no light on it whatsoever, and that's because the engine isn't running. Now the 12 volt function literally takes power from the alternator or from the engine side of power. So without the engine running, this will not do anything. Okay, as soon as you start the engine up, you'll get a little green light come on there when you select it, and that means that the fridge will be keeping itself cold whilst you're driving. So that's why they give you the option of 12 volt. It literally uses the engine's power to work. Okay, so that one there, the 12 volt, is only for keeping the fridge's temperature whilst you drive. So you do have to pre-cool it before you leave, either on the mains or on the gas, and then just switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving. Switch back to one of the other two once you've got to wherever you're going. Okay, so that's the 12 volt. The mains is literally just a case of switching over to the mains there. You'll get a little green light there, and that literally just means that it's cooling down. So that's working. The gas is just as easy. Select gas, you probably heard just then on the video just about. The ignition comes on automatically, the gas comes through automatically, and it lights up by itself. So as long as, on the gas, as long as you've got a little solid amber light inside there, the gas is on, and you can just leave it to do its thing. If the flame doesn't light up, you'll get a little flashing amber light in there. It's not the end of the world, it just means that you need to turn it back to 0 and try it again. Okay. Now you've got a temperature gauge on the right hand side here. All right, that's mainly to do with the gas, but you can just select that. Once you've got it to peak temperature, peak coldness if you like, you'll be able to adjust that accordingly. I will also point out that these fridges, along with all of the other motorhome fridges, will take a good 3 hours or so to actually get cold. So, you know, if you're going to go away in the morning, for example, you're going to go on holiday tomorrow morning, I would recommend doing it the night before, or at least a good few hours before you leave. Okay, so that is about it for the fridge. Now behind us, we have got the space heater. So we call it a space heater because it just heats a space. That's why they call it that. It's not some sort of special heater. It's just just what they call them. Now this particular one is the sort of highest spec. So you've got the electronic ignition, you've got the mains power on it as well, and you've got the fan. So you've got the highest spec one of these heaters that you can get. So over on the left hand side here, this little part over here on the left, this is all to do with the fan. And now when I say fan, I basically mean it'll just pump warm air around to these little vents around here. Any of these little circular beige vents that you can find, that's directly linked up to the heater. Now it's probably just that one there and one in the bathroom, to be honest. It's quite a small van. But yeah, so you select your number and you turn it on by pushing this little lever to the left. And that's it. That's how you would use the fan. So simple as that for using the fan. Back to the middle turns it off. If you want to use the heater on the gas, essentially you have got a little peephole just down here. That's what this little cutout is down here. And you've got a valve on the top. So when you twist this valve, you want to go round to sort of 2 or 3. Okay. You'll hear and probably be able to see, maybe not on the video, but you'll be able to see and hear a little clicking sound. That's the ignition going. Okay, so that's an automatic ignition. I then need to push down on this little valve, and you'll see when I show you in here in the peephole, flame lights up straight away, and that is our pilot flame. When I lift up on the valve, I'll just show you what I'm doing here. Lift up on the valve, and then when I twist it around, you have a little look what happens. You see there, it looks a little bit aggressive, but it's really not. It's just basically the main flame kicking in from the pilot flame. And that's literally all you have to do. You light it up on the pilot down on 2 or 3, and then twist it around to whatever number you want to get the main flame to kick in. And as long as you can still see a flame inside there and it's still on and all that sort of stuff, that's it. That's all you have to do to light this heater up on gas. If you want to turn it off, you just go all the way back round to 0. And that is now the gas flame off. So that's how you would use the heater on the mains. Now you have also got the option on this heater. If we have a little look inside the wardrobe, I'll show you through, I'll explain what all this stuff is to you in a minute. But inside the wardrobe, we've got 2 little switches over here. One at the top says water heater and one at the bottom just says heater. Now, if I turn the heater switch on, it will light up, but at the moment it's not actually doing anything. All it's doing is sending power to the switch, which is over here. So this is a Truma Ultra Heat, okay? Truma Ultra Heat, and your boiler is a Truma Ultra Store. All right, so when you're looking over here and you want to use the heating on the mains, you're looking at the Ultra Heat dial. Now you've got the option on here of 500, 1,000, or 2,000 watts of electricity in order to get the fridge cold. Fridge cold? What am I talking about? I've done a couple of videos today. You have to bear with me. So to get the heater hot, it's like the opposite of what I was trying to do. You've got the option of those 3 amounts. Okay. Now all 3 of those numbers correspond or correlate to an amount of amps. Sorry. So they're the amount of watts. You've got 500, 1,000, or 2,000 watts, and then they all correspond to a certain amount of amps. And the reason I'm saying that is because whenever you go to a campsite, or even if you're plugged in at home, a normal household socket would be a 13 amp socket. But if you're plugged into a post at a campsite, they should or would have already told you how much power you've got at that post. Now, if it's a 10 amp post that you're plugged into, then, I mean, that's quite a normal thing, I think. 10 amps, I think that's quite normal. You'll have to sort of bear in mind how much power you're using from certain appliances. So if you've got the fridge on the mains, all right, the second one down, you've got that on the mains, you can expect that to be drawing about 1 amp of power. Don't forget as well that when you're hooked up on the mains, your battery charger will be on. That can be anywhere between about 0.5 amp and 1 amp. So you've got 2 amps straight away if you're using the charger and the fridge. If you've got the electric ring on the cooker, that can be anywhere up to about 6 amps. Okay, so if you've got that on, you've got 8 amps already. You've then got the option of the Ultra Heat on the mains. So 500 watts is about 2.2 amps. 1,000 is about 4.5 amps, and 2,000 is about 8 amps. Okay, so if you've got those 3 things on there, you absolutely cannot use the heater on the mains. So that's the sort of thing that you just have to sort of think about. I mean, it will be written down in your habitation sheet because we have to make sure that they're drawing the right amount of power, but that is something that you will have to think about. If you're plugged into a 16 amp post, which I think is a little bit unusual nowadays, but if you are plugged into a 16 amp post, you haven't got to worry about the amount of power so much. And to be honest, the likelihood of you using the ring there at the back on full power, the Ultra Heat on full power, and all that sort of stuff is unlikely. The majority of people would use the cooker only on the gas, the heater only on the gas as well, to be honest. The fridge is pretty common to be used on the mains, but so I just thought I'd point that out to you. So I always point out the amount of power the 2,000 watts one uses, because realistically you don't really want to be drawing 8 amps from anything, because you're going to have not a lot of power to use it other than that. So just bear that in mind. If I was you, if you were going to use the Ultra Heat on the mains, I would just use 500 or 1,000. It still works pretty well. It's just, yeah. So that is how you would use the heater on the mains and on the electronic side of it as well. So I feel like I sort of went off topic a little bit there, but that's the heater on the gas and the mains. So the last thing to show you, the last appliance, is the boiler. Now, as I said, the boiler is called a Truma Ultra Store. Okay, that's what this little one here says, Ultra Store. Now, if you want to light the boiler up on the gas, first of all, make sure that you've taken your cover off on the outside. That's really important. And then all you have to do is select your temperature, which is literally just by turning this little thing here. You got 30 all the way through to 70, and then switch it on by turning the entire outside. So you would have heard it just then. That's the gas solenoid just opening up and allowing the gas through. And basically, as long as you get a little green light inside there and it stays green, you don't get a little red light next to it, that means that it's lit and it's working. All right, so that's how you would use the boiler on the gas. That's how you get your water hot on the gas. Now, alternatively, you have got the option as well, like the heater, you've got the option of using it on gas or electric. So as you can probably imagine, because you saw it a minute ago, you've also got another switch inside here that says water heater. And when you turn that one on there, the water heater switch, it will just start straight away. It will just start heating up the water inside the tank. Now, at the moment, I know for a fact that the boiler is empty because I've got that tab in the upright position, and it'll be draining all the water out. So I need to turn that off. It's really good practice to turn both of those switches off all the time that you're not using them, the water heater especially. So just turn those two switches off anytime you're not using them. But yeah. So that's all the appliances, all right? That's all the appliances in the van. In the wardrobe, you've got a full-size standalone table. You've got your mains trip switches in here. And you've got your gas isolator tabs. So if I just run you through which one does what. So you've got heater, boiler, fridge, and cooker. And if you want to isolate those, you can see by that little symbol there, that's telling you how to do it there. I will also point out you've got your awning winder in here, loads of paperwork in this little brown folder, and you've also got a little access hole here for the main power switch for your battery charger. So if you ever wanted to turn your battery charger off for any reason, you can do that from there. Okay, at the top just here, you've got what looks like some sort of a screen, probably for the windscreen there, I'm not 100% up there, and you've got your TV aerial and booster. So to turn the TV aerial booster on, you've got a power switch over on the left hand side here, just from there. That's about it on that booster. And the actual TV aerial itself, you undo this little bit here, and then you can push this up and move it around to wherever you want to move it to, just until you get a decent signal, really. Make sure to tighten that back up again before you drive off. That is that. And then I think the bathroom is about the only thing left. So in the bathroom, to be honest, the only parts that I ever really run through is just the toilet. I mean, the rest of it is literally just hot and cold tap there for the sink, hot and cold tap there for the shower, and a upright light just there. The light is waterproof. You've got a little switch inside there which is waterproof. But yeah. So the toilet, basically all there is to it, to be honest, is you've got a button at the top just here which will pump around your flush fluid like that, and then you've got a little grey handle down here. When you pull on this grey handle, you'll see everything from inside the bowl there goes into the cassette, and then make sure that you pull this back again when you're done. So to be honest, I think that is it. I don't think there's anything else that I've not covered. If there is anything else you want me to explain or anything else at all, just give us a ring. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.